You're listening to the Better People Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Warner. With us today is our ongoing guest, Rhonda Ramirez, licensed professional counselor out of Central Texas. And today's topic, Seasonal Affective Disorder. It's common for this time of the year. Rhonda, are you there?
I am here. How are you doing?
Good. I was telling you earlier about my trip to Buc-ee's in Texas.
Yeah.
Anyone from Texas, it's Buc-ee's. But Buc-ee's is an experience that you can only understand if you're from Texas.
If you've been there.
Or been there.
Yeah.
That's the best way to say it. Yeah. So it has nothing to do with our topic tonight, though. We're talking about seasonal affective disorder, which is commonly seen around this time of the year. And just kind of right out of the gate, how would you describe seasonal affective disorder? Also, the acronym is S.A.D, which is probably fitting.
Right. Well, it's a mood disorder, and it has similar and probably some of the same symptoms as depressive symptoms, but it happens at a specific time of the year. Now, a lot of people experience it during the winter, most commonly, but also there's a small portion of people who also can experience this type of sadness, this type of disorder in the summer too. But most commonly, it is in the winter. I like to say it kind of correlates with the time change. I know that I definitely notice personally, but also within my counseling appointments, definitely when the time changes, people do not miss their appointments between November and the spring. Then when the time changes again and it gets to be, lighter, darker, longer, people often miss their appointments just because they're outside and they're enjoying the sun and they feel good. So it's an interesting little situation that happens. But yeah, it often can include, not having a lot of energy, sleeping too much, overeating, having, lacking motivation. And definitely, I'm sure people have heard, people who live in Alaska have, during the winter time when they have much less light, like from 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock, they will often have, light bulbs to turn on to kind of help increase their vitamin D and help kind of boost their mood. But even here, closer to the equator, when we don't really have that huge disparity in the sun, we can still have those, seasonal times where you just don't feel like your normal self.
So basically, it's the body's way of putting into hibernation in a way. In a way, it sounds like.
It kind of feels that way sometimes too. You move slower. You don't have that gusto, that motivation, and it just. A lot of times it is like we kind of mentioned before we started, it also, the holidays don't necessarily help, especially if we've had a big change in the family system or just a change in who we celebrate with. If we get to celebrate, oftentimes there's some feelings of hopelessness and loneliness during the holidays. I think mostly because they're so hyped up, they don't always meet our expectations. So, that can also kind of pile on to that feeling when it seems like things just move slower.
It's kind of like if you were to look at it from a Hallmark movie, we get upset that we're discouraged that our life's not going to be like that Hallmark movie.
Right. Right.
You'll see with 3 different plots that's just change out the characters and you have a new Hallmark Christmas movie. Yeah, understand.
Yeah, exactly. And I am not downplaying this at all. There are definitely levels just like any other situation, there's always a range of people's emotions and feelings and kind of how they affect us. But sometimes we can get into the major depression, uh, and even sometimes some suicidal ideation during this seasonal affective disorder as well. So they can, it can go from just feeling like things aren't right to all the way to, we definitely are not in a great place. Um, Oftentimes, the people also, because they do feel hopeless sometimes, they also withdraw from social interaction, which it doesn't help.
Right.
Because we need people. We need people around us. Even we just need people.
Right.
They help.
You're saying that seasonal affective disorder can become, if not kept in check, it can lead to actual full-on depression.
Right.
In those cases.
Right. For sure. And yeah, for sure. Things even like, you're changing appetite, you're changing sleeping habits. And that can even go into difficulty making decisions, concentrating, easily agitated. Those are things that are often found in, just a normal major depressive episode. They also apply to seasonal affective disorder as well. So, it's just, I think that of course, it's connected to a time frame in the calendar year that would make it seasonal.
So that's the key part of this, though, is instead of you suffer from anxiety and depression, it's now more festive. No, it's more. Right. It's terrible. It's connected to the time of the year, and often we see it longer months, or not longer months, but winter months, because of longer times that we're in darkness in some cases. Right. And cannot be as active as we're used to, maybe temperature, some of it's right. And so we just naturally change our habits. And as a result of that, sometimes those can lead to those depressive moments.
Correct.
Or in the case of holidays, in case of my family, I have a mother who passed away a few years ago. And so Christmas was always her time to get the kids, the grandkids, excited, pajamas and excited, and she was happy. And now that person's no longer there. And so the holidays have had a meaning, a feeling.
Feel different.
Yeah, they feel different.
Right.
So what would be something to watch out for if you are affected by this? And it sounds like majority of us are maybe affected, but not necessarily to a degree of what you define as depression, but some of us are more apt to do so. What are some warning signs to be careful?
Well, I would say for sure the first kind of warning sign is just noticing that you might have a little bit less energy. Noticing that maybe you don't want to have those social interactions as much as you normally would. You may still have some, but you may not jump on opportunities as much. And just like I would say a feeling that you don't feel as maybe joyful or happy as you feel like you normally should, or that's normal for you. How about that? That's a better way to describe it. That's maybe as normal for you. Like you see things that normally would make you, smile, have that warm fuzzy feeling, and maybe that just isn't happening. You can recognize that they're good things. You just necessarily can't get that feeling that you would normally have.
I see. And so then I guess it's more of a question on if it's a problem is more in the beholder who's going through it.
Correct.
Because our habits are definitely going to change. but I guess
Correct.
it's where you realize, hey, I should not normally feel this way, or normally this action makes me happy, but it doesn't
Happy.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Yes. It's that change in where you can notice that your mood may not be on the normal range for yourself, because not everybody gets ecstatic when they see a kitten, but I mean, I do.
Some get allergies, and some are ecstatic. I can
Right.
understand. Yeah.
So, but if seeing a kitten normally makes you ecstatic, and then maybe during this time frame, seeing that same tiny kitten, you're like, oh, that's cute. Like, I normally would be super excited to see that, but it's just the thing.
And in this case, the kitten being the example, but it could be any
right.
action.
It could be anything. It could be anything. If if your favorite food comes and you're not quite as excited, it may be like, okay, let me pay attention to kind of how I'm feeling. So let's see if there are other things going on.
So at what point do you need to start saying, I might need to talk to somebody? At what point would you say it enters that mindset?
I would say when, I always say when it starts to bother you, for sure.
Sure.
When you are noticing it and it is something that you are concerned about your own behavior, I think, which takes a level of awareness that, we might not all have at the beginning. So, I think when you start to say, oh, I've noticed this happening a couple of times, I even have thought about trying to change it, I just can't get the motivation to do that, then I would say, okay, well, maybe you just first talk to a friend and say, have you seen these things changing me? And make sure that maybe somebody else might have seen that too.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then say, okay, maybe it's time to just go talk to someone and see what are the active things that we can work on, or that I can just, understand better. Because sometimes it's just an understanding of, this does happen for some people, this does happen during the season. And so you have to actively, intentionally say, okay, well, I'm not going to ignore my friend's invitation to go out to dinner for 2 weeks, or I'm not going to I'm not going to ignore all phone calls because I don't want to talk to anybody, for a week.
Well, that's me all season. That's all me. It's me all year.
I was going to say, yes. I definitely opt to text rather than to phone call, but that's the norm. But that's the norm for me. And so if I'm not replying, then it's a little sign that, like, okay, why do I not? Because I normally do that.
Sure.
That's the thing that I normally do. So it's just, what has changed in your life, and is it affecting your daily life?
So what would you say? And I know it's going to vary per person, but what would be some actions you can take to help alleviate the effects of SAD, like I say SAD, but seasonal affective disorder?
Right. Well, and these are going to be things that we all know, and it's just hard to do.
Of course, it's like losing weight. It's diet and exercise.
Exactly. That's one of the things too. Is that make sure that we're going to go to the basics. We're going to make sure that we're drinking water and eating a couple times during the day. Your normal whatever, because some people eat twice a day, some people eat 6 small meals, whatever it is for you, but that you're doing that in a normal way, because our physical body does affect our mental spirit and our mood. So we're going to do that. We're going to check on our sleep and make sure that we're sleeping a normal amount of time, that we're not sleeping 4 or 5 hours extra during the day, or having 2 or 3 hours a night of sleep. That's definitely not going to help this disorder. And then we're also going to be really intent on keeping some of those social connections that we have in our normal daily life, even when we may not feel like we want to, but just being intent on keeping some of those. And then, the other thing that is the hardest thing for me, but I always say it and because it always works, is to get out and move, to go for a walk. For those of you who love to run, bless you, go for a run.
I used to feel like I was a guy who could run, and I tried to do it in my early 20s. And what I did learn about myself is I don't like to run. So
yeah, it's not my thing either, but I can go for a walk, and I can do that. So, that when you said diet and exercise, it really is that exercise does give us that endorphin boost in our head that gives us those good chemicals that can kind of counter some of these feelings, these moods. And so, getting outside and walking. If you're in Texas, it's not too cold right now.
It's really not.
Definitely go walk.
Yeah.
Still, I know it's December, but you can still go for an afternoon walk and be pretty good.
And probably go to the pool as well if you really, really wanted to.
Oh, yeah,
place.
for sure. For sure. So, they seem simple and easy and normal, and those are what we should be doing anyway, but that is what's going to boost our endorphins for sure. And we've talked about journaling before, but if you feel like, let me just write some of these things down because it helps me to focus, but also it gets them out on a page. Mm-hmm. I will always be a proponent of journaling for lots of different things. But really, it's those basic things that we just have to keep in our mind. Okay, let's keep going. Let's not, fall into the I've eaten tortilla chips for 3 days straight, because that's just not healthy in general. But also, it's not.
As I make a note to stop eating my tortilla chips for 3 days straight, that's not healthy.
Yeah, I say.
As I'm making my own personal note. Okay, stop that, Thomas.
I mean, if you eat it with salsa, maybe, because that's vegetables. But anyway, it's just not going to boost our actual physical body by repeating some of those things. So we have to do the things we all know, and that's, eat whatever is normal for you and a variety of things. Keep your water intake going. Sometimes those are the basic things, but those are the things that kind of keep us going.
Sure.
And then get moving, Even if you just go outside in your backyard and walk around a couple times, just a change of environment will often give you a little boost.
I tell myself that I'm walking around the grounds, which is the backyard.
There we go.
Makes me feel like I have a mansion and a wing, but yes. it's 2-bedroom duplex. But still, the grounds helps me.
Yes.
So
in my villa later in life, I will definitely walk the grounds for sure. But those things, they're very basic, but they really are the things that kind of keep us going. And if you're really being intent on trying to focus on just those basic things, and you're still having some hard issues, that for sure is a kind of flag to say, hey, maybe I do need to go talk to somebody. Because again, there's a range of feelings and there's a range of emotions on this S.A.D, seasonal affective disorder. And I told you, I do suffer from this myself. I would say not very far down the range, but I definitely notice a difference in my own mood. And so, I have to intentionally do those things I just said. Keep drinking water, keep eating. Another thing that I personally do is I choose music and play music that boosts my mood, and don't play, because sometimes when I feel sad, I'm just going to play my sad music and just, lean into that feeling, but you can't do that all winter.
It's my 7th grade year all over again. I remember those days. So.
Well, in fact, my students today asked me, "Are you okay, Mr. Ramirez?" I'm like, "Yeah, huh? Yeah, I'm fine." They're like, "Well, your music list today is kind of sad." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, guys. Yes, it is kind of sad, but it does not say anything about my mood. My mood is fine. Thank you for checking on me." They're like, "Okay, we just want to make sure you're okay." So, music is a great way to kind of keep us in a in a in a happy mood or in a sad. We can choose all kinds of things, but I definitely try to choose things that are more upbeat in the winter,
Sure.
which is weird, but it's
Which
true.
it's weird for me because I can go from listening to Five Finger Death Punch to 1812 Overture in about 5 minutes difference there,
Yes.
and so in my music selection ranges. I mean, again, then to Garth Brooks. It is just
Yeah, for sure.
all
That's
over the
great.
place, and so. But I
For
agree with you.
sure.
I understand that. I'll
Yeah,
listen to. Or I'll listen to hymns, which is definitely counter to the Five Finger Death Punch
absolutely.
list there. But certain upbeat music,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right, can affect the mood. Especially, I've noticed if I can do that driving into work,
Yeah.
it changes my outlook of getting out of the car versus from
Correct.
dread to, hey, you know what?
Okay.
It is what it
We can
is.
do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can do this. Well, and of course, if you saw my playlist, they're all labeled by emotion. So
Ah,
that's kind of funny. But yeah, I have happy 1, 2, and 3, and then I have moody and blues and sad and all kinds. I think one is even destructive where I want to be angry. So that that is also a very intentional thing that we can do. And what music makes you feel great or what music lifts your mood. So that's another thing that's just something that is easy and usually free. So, I'm always for the free stuff too. Um, but just being really intentional about kind of keeping yourself going with those normal things. And then if things are still difficult, maybe that's when you're like, okay, well, let me go talk to somebody and get a little help figuring this out.
so, and this is kind of I know there's not probably a quick answer, or maybe there is.
Mm-hmm.
What does somebody do when they do decide I need to speak to a counselor? Who do they reach out to? Like what resources can
Yes.
they do to find? I mean, you could Google, I guess, counselor, but what are some
Yeah.
good steps to find a good counselor?
So if you trust your GP, maybe you have a great relationship with your normal doctor that you go see, you could call and ask them. If you have insurance, then I would start on the. I know it's crazy, but I would start at the insurance company and just look and see what providers are on my insurance. And then if not, there's a great in Texas, and I don't know how many counties right now because it grows, but there are many counties in Texas that have free counseling services for children. They're called STARRY, STARRY, and we have those here in Central Texas, and they're absolutely free for children 0 to 18. And you could get hooked up with them if you have kiddos, and then they can also refer you as an adult to places that they know. You can straight up Google, and there will be many that pop up. And then you can start. There's lots of pictures, so you can start if you want to look at your possible therapist and say, I'm not sure. Or if you're looking for specific things, like maybe you want someone who is multicultural. Maybe you want someone who speaks Spanish. You can also put those in your search engine if you want to do that. If you personally know someone who works in mental health, you can ask them for a referral. They definitely can't see you, but they can definitely refer you to someone who hopefully they trust. I wouldn't refer anybody to somebody I don't trust. So those are the main ways talk to your doctor if you have that relationship with your doctor. Look on, if you have insurance, look on your insurance and see who may be on the insurance that you can use your insurance with. There are the free services. There's those free services for kiddos. There's a few, and I will say few, therapists who do sliding scale stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need some monetary help with that may be something that you look for. Put therapists with sliding scale. You just kind of have to ask. And I personally have never advertised anywhere. It's always been word of mouth. And I think that's the best way. If you have a friend that you trust, just say, hey, do you know any therapists? Have you heard of any therapists? Because, obviously you're not going to just ask any random person that you know, but it's definitely someone you trust. Because I think word of mouth is, always a great way to go.
Sure. It's free. That's what as a guy who works in sales, I tell our clients that you can never beat word of mouth. I 100% agree with that.
Oh.
So it sounds like this actually could probably be maybe a future topic in more in-depth to talk about how to find a counselor. And it ranges from people who have the insurance or the money to pay for it. And then unfortunately there is a large, probably to a degree, maybe even larger, that may not have access to some of the funds. And so that may be something we talk about further into the future. But the key part is if you're suffering from seasonal affective disorder or think you might be, and it is causing a problem in your normal routine of life, definitely start talking to somebody, which could include a counselor or counselor type situation.
Right.
And I appreciate you talking to us today. I'm going to start wrapping this up and just hang out on the line for a little bit, and then we'll go from there. All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. Thank you very much. Yeah. You've been listening to the Better People podcast. We've had Rhonda Ramirez on with us today. And as we said, seasonal affective disorder, it's often called S.A.D, is the acronym for it. It's common around the holidays, but it's not necessarily exclusive to the holidays. If you have any questions, you should always consult a licensed professional counselor. And with that, thank you for listening.